We're going to shift gears today, literally and figuratively. The past few months have been incredibly busy, with some really intensive video projects, the holidays, and a cascade of collaboration proposals, including requests to highlight colognes and perfumes, as well as to feature women's athletic underwear. And I think we can all be grateful that I passed on that one. In truth, I welcome products that I think have legitimate value and relevance for my viewers. But there's also an unbelievable amount of junk out there, products that no one needs. And you have better things to do than listen to someone peddle junk. That's not why you guys watch my videos, and I know that. But when Mokwheel contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to give an honest review of one of their e-bikes, I knew there was some real potential. Chances are you've probably seen one or more of my bear videos, but what you don't know is that the very first bear that I ever encountered in the wild was during a long-distance cycling trip when I was 14 years old. I was alone at the time, and the park I was visiting was a lot quieter and less crowded in those days. While biking along a lakeshore, I noticed something dark near the roadway along the tree line. It was a black bear. I stopped and watched from a less ideal but still safe distance, and for 15 minutes there wasn't a sound beyond the lapping of waves and the slight rustling of the wind in the trees. Alone, the black bear and I seemed like aliens from different worlds making first contact, and for a moment time seemed to stop as I found a deeper personal connection to an animal that so many people fear and the natural world it inhabited. I love cycling, and I love cycling in wild spaces because it brings you so much closer to a world that most people only get to see through their car windows while rushing through the landscape. On both paved roadways and mountain trails, cycling offers you so much more. So I'm grateful to Mokwheel for letting me give an honest review of their full suspension Obsidian e-bike. This is 21st century cycling, and the Obsidian certainly looks the part, but can it meet the challenges of a wild spaces lifestyle? We're going to find out, at least once I get it put together. If the box is any indication, this should be a pretty sturdy bike. I kid you not, on more than one occasion I thought that a chainsaw would actually be quite useful. The bike comes with an easy to follow instruction manual and a well laid out tool set, which includes everything that you need for assembly, which is definitely a major plus. At close to 80 pounds, there are lighter bikes out there, but a lot of the Obsidian's weight comes from that massive 48 volt, 19.6 amp hour battery and the 1000 watt rear wheel e-motor. We'll speed this up a little bit, but while I cut to the assembly montage, let's jump into the technical specifications for you number crunchers out there. The Obsidian comes in 4 color schemes. I went with the black with red highlights, but also comes in a yellow and 2 camouflage variations. The battery uses UL certified lithium power cells from Samsung and comes with a 48 volt 3 amp charger, meaning that it takes roughly 7 hours to charge the battery from 0 to 100%. The Mokwheel Obsidian includes hydraulic disc brakes and an incorporated headlight, and if you so desire, you can include a power inverter and solar panels to give yourself some serious long distance flexibility and range, as well as the ability to power and charge a number of different electronic devices. Now, advertised specifications are good and all, but it's one thing to look the part and another entirely to act the part. What matters to me, and what I'm sure matters most to you, is real-world performance and reliability. Before taking the Obsidian out on the trails, I wanted to get a feel for the bike's handling on roadways, and my first impression was, this is cheating. You can really feel the Obsidian's rear 1000 watt motor and torque sensor kick in when you pedal. I easily climbed hills that would normally require a fair amount or a lot of effort, and while the purist in me felt a little guilty, I immediately flashed back to my college days, biking miles to and from classes and cycling to work in the summer heat, only to arrive in less than my freshest state. As a commuter option, a solid e-bike really makes a lot of sense. And while there's definitely cost to the bike's 19.6 amp hour battery, commuting to work or school on a bike will always be better for the environment than driving a car, and that includes electric cars. So as far as a commuter option goes, especially for somebody who cares about the environment, an e-bike makes a lot of sense, especially if you have a way of securing it. But how does the Obsidian handle life off-road? Other reviewers have played around with off-road capability, but none of them has really tackled the type of terrain that's of most interest to me. With these 4-inch fat tires and a rear hub motor, I should be able to take on some serious terrain. Of the 40 or so miles that I've put on the Obsidian, about half of them have been off-road. And wanting to give you the most accurate impression I could, I took the bike to trails that would put the electric motor, handling, and tires to the test. Along with some fairly standard packed double-track trails, I took the Obsidian out on some brutal trails, complete with steep, jagged slopes, tire-shredding rocks and thorns, stickers, and boulders, as well as some icy and snowy mountain roads. And honestly, I was surprised. The Obsidian handled pretty much everything I threw at it, though I don't really advise cycling on icy roads. There were some 40-degree inclines with large boulders that I couldn't quite navigate while pedaling uphill, so I found myself pushing the bike over some of the rougher inclines. And with the bike weighing close to 80 pounds, the Obsidian's throttle control came in handy. With the help of the throttle control, I would often find myself running uphill alongside the bike. And quite honestly, if you go mountain biking, walking some sections is just part of the game. Now, Mokwheel claims that the Obsidian is rated for a max payload of 400 pounds. I am nowhere near that. But at 6'3", I'm a bigger guy, and I figured that on the right trail, I could give the bike's e-motor and front and back suspension a solid workout. And both handled my test nicely. Both the front and rear suspension are adjustable, but out of the box, they both did fine for me. The 8-speed Shimano derailleur also worked really well. I didn't have any problems shifting, whether going uphill or downhill, and the chain stayed in place, even on some of the roughest terrain. And the hydraulic brakes did their job as well, giving me both the stopping power and the control I needed on the downhill slopes. Though with any e-bike, you should do a brake test at the beginning of each of your rides, just to make sure that the brakes are working. While putting the Obsidian through its paces, I got to enjoy some glorious sights and the natural scenery that I deeply treasure, in relative quiet and solitude. You can definitely hear the bike's motor, but it's pretty tame. During my test rides, I rode this bike hard and I put it away muddy and had a lot of fun doing it. The bike's heavier frame makes it a lot less nimble off-road compared to traditional non-electric mountain bikes, but no reasonable person would be surprised by that. There are going to be trade-offs. And frankly, e-bikes aren't going to be the best fit for everybody. For example, e-bikes are not permitted on many mountain biking trails. But as a Class 2 e-bike, the Obsidian should be good to take on most 4x4 and dirt bike trails if you have a healthy appetite for adventure and exercise. Despite my initial trepidation, I was able to get a solid workout each time I took the bike into primitive areas. Naturally, your level of exertion will depend on the level of pedal assist that you have selected and your personal fitness, but on prolonged steep slopes, even with max pedal assist, you can get a solid workout while also traveling farther and faster than you would on a traditional mountain bike. Despite my best efforts, I wasn't able to pop or puncture the Obsidian's Hipposkin tires or burn out the motor. Just remember to bring the appropriate tools to potentially service the bike along the way should you have a problem. I didn't have any issues, but you should never enter the backcountry without a contingency plan. And traveling on rougher and steeper terrain will of course drain your battery faster, but again, no surprise there. On my first excursion on inner city roads and steep mountain roads, I covered about 25 miles before draining the battery to 20%. But if you're pedaling on mostly level city streets, you should comfortably get many more miles out of a single charge. For most mountain biking excursions, I'd expect the battery to offer more than enough power to comfortably get you through double-digit miles of rough terrain. And while it's definitely possible to pedal the bike without pedal assist, it will take significantly more effort to get this bike back to home base if you've completely drained the battery. Again, on city streets, I don't expect there to be much of an issue if you keep the battery charged, but I definitely wouldn't want to pack this thing out of the backcountry without battery power. Before wrapping up, there are a few things that I didn't like. I'm a taller guy, and the seat post wasn't quite long enough to give me full leg extension while pedaling. But, I can easily fix that with an extra large seat post. The bike's display is nice and really easy to read in both high and low light, even with polarized lenses. But there were some times that I wish the controls were more responsive. They worked fine, and I was always able to select the level of pedal assist that I wanted, but oftentimes it would take some extra button presses to get there. The bike's fenders worked well to block any mud and debris, but on rough terrain they rattle quite a bit. And honestly, that's probably to be expected. You could take them off, but I think there's some value there in protecting the battery and also protecting yourself from mud being flung up. The bike includes a quick release lever for the seat post, which is nice, but not for either the front or the back wheels, which means that you'll need to carry some extra wrenches around in case of a flat tire. All in all, I had a lot of fun with this bike, and it held up really well during my tests. If you've got a way to secure the bike once you get to work or school, the Mokwheel Obsidian should be a solid commuting option that can also comfortably take on rugged terrain. And for a rear wheel motor setup, it should be a competitively priced option in the e-mountain bike market. Mokwheel currently has the Obsidian listed for $23.99, down from $28.99. But Mokwheel is also offering an additional $50 off if you use the code MG50, which is valid for 1 week from the posting of this video. If you're in the market for a rugged e-mountain bike, the Mokwheel Obsidian is a pretty capable and competitive option. And you can check it out at mokwheel.com, seen here or linked in the description.